25 years ago, there was a regular children's segment in the Sunday morning services at Blackburn North Baptist. On the first Sunday morning after the arrival of the Demond family in Melbourne, we impressed on the gathered children that a new family had arrived all the way from Canada. There on stage, we landed an international airliner, we checked the Demonds through customs, we confiscated bottles of maple syrup they had allegedly smuggled into their bags, and we stamped their passports. I have no idea of the spiritual application of that children's segment, but the point was that they were long awaited and very welcome as migrants to this new land.
The Reverend Jack Simmons took up his role in December 1970. Jack served as our pastor for 22 years, but with the onset of lymphoma of an aggressive type, his health suffered, leading to his decision to step aside in 2002. Allan was serving as pastor of Highfield Baptist Church in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada at the time. The decision was taken to explore with Allan whether a basic might exist for him to contemplate ministry in our church. That was September 1993. These exchanges revealed that Allan was not prepared to consider an invitation from us, as his subordinate had just resigned to take up a calling elsewhere. Our pastorate committee continued the search but reached the point where none of the options on the agenda showed promise, convincing the committee to approach Allan once more. Moncton Church had appointed a new associate for Allan. The committee arranged for Allan and Janet to visit us in August '94. It was during this visit that I first met Allan and Janet in my then role as chairman of the diaconate. I formed the view that Allan possessed the background, personal development, drive and attitude to enrich the pilgrimage of the church. Allan's affirmative response arrived on 28 September. The members' meeting on 5 October supported the appointment overwhelmingly, 96% in favour. Allan was inducted as pastor of the church on 18 June 1995. And let us not forget Janet for her scholarship as the author of her fine History of Our Church, a celebration of faithfulness, 50 years of Blackburn North Baptist Church.
I believe that it was my job to educate you about the culture of this country. And the real culture, particularly in the city of Melbourne, you have to get with the sport. And the main sport is, of course, football. Now, Allan, this is a great religion in this country, and the ritual for this religion happens at a great temple. It's called the Melbourne Cricket Ground, or the MCG. I said, you can barrack for any team you like, but I said, don't barrack for Collingwood. Well, why is that, he said. I said, well, everybody hates Collingwood, except the people who barrack for Collingwood. It reminds me, yes, here we are. So, I said, Allan, you need to get the gear. So I don't know how much gear he's got, but there we are. This is it. This is the gear you need. Allan, you've got to be there. Keep your head warm in the winter. Wear the scarf. That's the way to go.
Allan, you've not only been a pastor, but a mentor, teacher, church counsellor and friend. To use an expression of Darryl Kerrigan, noted Melbourne tow truck driver, Allan is an ideas man. That's why we call him the Ideas Man. I recall when he gently approached me to consider the role of Chair of Church Council. He explained that there were 3 roadblocks that he wanted to work on: in governance, in worship styles, and in buildings. Allan never rushed like a bull at a gate to crash through. He was patient, preferring to bring others with him.
Allan and Janet, you are lovingly and deeply valued and supported before God, that you will know the ongoing empowering hand of Him and the equipping by His Spirit for our church to continue to be the needed change agent in the years ahead.
Most of us find it pretty hard to sustain a ministry and still be liked after 5 years, but you've been here 25 years and the people still love you and they love listening to you. So Allan, you and Jeanette and the family, you have been God's gift to us. And I, as a preacher, say, thank you for your preaching. It's always an inspiration to come and to share in worship where you are preaching.
Great leaders combine an enduring resolve with personal humility. They turn the focus away from themselves to larger purposes, and they go the distance. Allan, we know that you are such a leader because we've witnessed it over the long haul. And we thank God every time we remember you. In all our prayers for all of you, we always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now.
We've been friends of the DeMonds for many years, but my relationship with Janet started when we came to NewHope 12 years ago almost. I just want to say how much I value and appreciate your friendship. You mean so much to me, and we've done so many amazing things together. And Janet, I love your creativity with colour and with words. And thank you for the art exhibition that you did. It was just amazing seeing all your art in one place. I am blessed and encouraged and inspired by your art.
I'd like to share a little of my 25-year special friendship with Janet. Our friendship formed early when Janet, Allan and the girls first arrived from Canada to Australia. They spent their first Christmas with us and our family at Janine and Kerry's home in Blackburn. It was a hot, clear day and the girls were able to swim, which is quite unusual for Canadians to be swimming in December. I recall Allan saying he much preferred this than shoveling snow in Eastern Canada. Also about that time, I had a medical procedure and I felt very blessed when Janet arrived at my front door to do the ironing. We talked just about all day, but I felt that that's what a real friendship is, when someone's prepared to help you like that. Then we started a book club. Janet was part of this. 9 women who loved to read good books. We didn't know everybody at the first time we met together, but it wasn't long and we were meeting not just for reading the good books, but for catching up together, caring for each other.
So I've kept every one of your cards that you've given me because they just inspire me. And I want to thank you for all the adventures that we've had together over the years. We've done walking on the Great Ocean Road walk, we've been picking olives in Tasmania, and I love it that you're my birthday buddy, that we're born in the same year, and we've had adventures around that. Janet, I love your gentleness and your faithfulness. I love that you're my friend, and I hope that we have many adventures as we go on journeying together into the future.
Janet is someone I can confide in. She's spiritually aware and encouraging. We love to share family and the happy and the sad times that do occur in life. I know she's someone who prays for me, and I truly feel blessed. Thank you, Janet, for being my friend.
Allan was my boss and colleague for more than 10 years at NewHope. He has been my mentor, friend and sounding board, and has helped me to develop into the leader I am today. It's fair to say that I would not be doing the job I'm doing now if it weren't for Allan's investment in my life. As a leader, Allan gave me opportunities to flourish and to try new things. He made himself available whenever I sought his advice and wisdom. He never crucified me when I made mistakes, and most of the time, he supported my ideas. At the same time, Allan has been courageous enough and willing to challenge me when he thought I was off the mark a little or simply wrong. Allan has a passion for developing leaders and has invested in the development of countless pastors throughout Australia. Allan has been instrumental in leading this church through significant change and having the vision to see NewHope develop into the church it is today. Most importantly, Allan is a godly man. He loves God and he loves the church. He loves his family and his friends.
Well, Allan's been my boss for 16 years. Allan loves a good laugh. There was a YouTube clip going around a few years ago, a squirrel that popped up in long grass and called out, "Allan, Allan, Allan." So after that, occasionally it'd be quiet in the open plan office and someone would begin to call out, "Allan, Allan," and the echo would begin. I don't know what Allan thought, but we all found it really hilarious.
I think the first time I met Allan was at a minister's fraternal meeting, not long after he had started at what was then the North Blackburn Baptist Church. Allan and I quickly developed a friendship, born, I think, out of the similarities of our ministry journeys. I too was a new minister to Blackburn and leading a church with a ministry team and facing the challenge of leading through change. And then we welcomed Peter McPherson from St Alfred's Anglican Church to join us, and 2 became 3. The 3 of us had the most wonderful retreat times together, many of them at Phillip Island. I love this photo, which was taken on one of those occasions. I think it speaks of the warmth of our friendship and the enjoyment we experienced being together. Once again, we shared so much in common in terms of the challenges of leading our churches, but more so in the faith we shared. Representing 3 different denominations, but sharing a common love for our Lord and for the gospel.
So Allan has always had that perspective that's wider than the local church, and that's allowed us here at St Alfred's to be supported by Allan's ministry, and I really appreciate that. It's many years ago, as you possibly remember, not only was NewHope doing a building project, but St Alfred's was starting to talk about doing a building project. But our problem was we had a debt that we'd incurred through the 80s and 90s that we just hadn't quite managed to extinguish. And I remember emailing Allan and saying, we're just going into that stage, Allan, of asking our people if we could maybe contribute some increased giving and get rid of this debt. Could they perhaps give some money over and above their normal giving, just so we could put that past debt to bed and then breathe a sigh of relief and dream about the future and what we could do here. Now, this is probably about 18 years ago. Apparently, when Allan got that email from me, he said to himself, sure, we'll pray for our friends up the road there at St Alfred's. But he decided, I think without much discussion with anybody else perhaps, that on that next Sunday he would actually ask all the congregations at NewHope just to, if they could put some money in the plate for St Alfred's. Now, normally people don't like giving to debt. It's, someone else's decisions in the past, and I was astounded that Allan would even ask that. It was hard enough for me to do that at St Alfred's. And so he sat opposite me and he gave me a little envelope and he said, I'd like you to have a look in that. And inside that envelope was a cheque for $5,000 and a lovely letter expressing the care and concern and the love of the folk at NewHope and wishing us all God's blessing.
25 years ago, he was obedient to God's call and moved halfway across the world to pastor this church. Since that move, Allan has continued to be obedient to God's missionary call and is passionate about advancing God's kingdom and seeing God's church bring hope and transformation to our world. Allan, I'm proud to call you a friend and a colleague. You are a leader who is held in high esteem throughout all of Australia and one of the most gifted, insightful preachers and leaders in our nation.
I'm encouraged pretty much every single time I'm in ministry with Allan. I always seem to learn something new, how to pastor well, how to pastor wisely. Often I'll be sitting there in a meeting with he and others and I'll be nodding and smiling as he ministers. And inwardly I'd be thinking, wow, that's good. Oh, yes, I must remember that. I'm encouraged by the way that Allan loves the word and he loves to build healthy faith community.
There were a couple of occasions over the years when I rang Allan and told him we needed to talk. Well, in fact, I needed to talk because I was facing a major challenge or decision. And Allan was the one I turned to for counsel, wisdom, comfort, and advice. Thank you for being there, Allan, when I needed you.
And I just wish you and Janet and your family all God's blessing for whatever the future holds. Lots of love and blessings from me and from the team here at St Alfred's.
Congratulations, Allan, on 25 years of ministry. You and Janet have been an incredible influence, not only in your local church, but in churches all over Australia. I see your heart every single time we get together. And it's a heart for people. It's a heart for releasing the purposes of God over each one of them. And there's a grace that you have as a leader that is outstanding. Thank you for serving the churches so well across our country. Thank you for coming, you and Janet, to Western Australia a number of years ago and just sharing with all of the pastors in our state. I remember at that particular time, Mark and I were heading off to walk the Camino, and you and Janet paused and you prayed over us. One thing I know about you, Allan, is that you wait to hear the voice of God before you move. In that particular prayer, you had a word for us that we wouldn't walk as two, but we would walk as three. And I have to say that has redefined our life, not just the walk we went on. We constantly refer to that. And there's so many times, Allan, where you speak and it's as if you are indeed speaking the words of Jesus to those around you. Your leadership is outstanding. I've loved coming to your church and being part of that with your staff.
First of all, I would like to convey my warmest congratulations to Allan for this 25th anniversary at New Hope. Well done, Allan. And knowing you, you would be the first to point to the one who gave you the faith, hope, and love to get through these 25 years. So it's a party of grace, I think, today, and I'm sure you would feel the same way. Where would we be without the grace of Jesus, who transforms us as we journey with him on a daily basis? I got to know Allan a few years ago when I was interviewed for the role of principal at Whitley. And I remember sitting there in the BUV headquarters at Turek Road, and yes, I was nervous as a single Dutchie among all these impressive Australians. But Allan asked simply about my story of faith, my story with Jesus. And I believe he asked something like, who is he for you? What does he mean for you? That was my first encounter, and of course I gradually understood that there was a depth of experience behind that question. We share not just that story, but maybe also a bit of the same experience, moving from the Northern Hemisphere to unknown lands, following our Master's call. That is special, and it also warms my heart. I'm excited every time I listen to Allan's sermons, and it's a wonderful thing that Allan teaches that crucial discipline of homiletics, preaching, at our college.
In the short time that I've known him, and as I've worked alongside him, I have known Allan to be someone who is just super pastorally sensitive, someone who just brings with him a sense of calm and a welcoming spirit to everyone, including myself. I also remarked something, this is something I remarked to my wife very early on in my time on the board of Whitehorse Church's care, just the clarity and the precision and the timeliness that Allan brought. He's also someone that I found to be just super encouraging. There's someone who has time for everyone. As we were embarking on a building project, and as we'd heard that he'd sort of led you guys through something similar, a massive building project of your own, without hesitation, he agreed for us to come spend some time with him at New Hope for a couple of hours, one evening after hours, just so he could share with us his wisdom, his experience, his knowledge of what you guys went through, just to bless us in that way. So thankful to this day for that initial meeting.
One of the things I always look for to Allan when we are having a discussion around the board table is this smile that comes on his face, and I know he's about to say something and it's going to be special. Allan, you have this wonderful ability to come at things from left field, really interesting, really valuable. I know all of my board colleagues and I personally really appreciate your ability to think in really interesting ways, but also to be such an encourager, to be a big dreamer.
Every time you speak, people are affected by your wisdom, by your graciousness. You never have too little time for everyone else. You always put them first, and you've handled some really tricky situations. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for serving and loving a congregation for 25 years. You've been a dear friend and a great colleague. I wish you and Janet all the very best on this very special day.
Congratulations on just your faithful service to our Lord and to his people. I'm very thankful to have met you and to now be serving alongside you. I'm looking forward to all that our Lord's going to continue to do in and through you as you continue serving him and his people.
I'm so thankful for what you bring, not just the board, but for what you bring to me personally in my life. And I know what you do for so many people here in Australia in leadership, and then your community around New Hope Baptist Church. So Allan, congratulations. So good that Melbourne mob accepted that Canadian so many years ago, 25 years ago. I really look forward to seeing how God uses you in leadership, in pastoral ministry, in being a change maker with all of us in the years ahead. God bless you.
So I just wanted to say thank you, Allan, for who you are in our midst, for your gifts, for your love for Jesus and for his church. Let's walk another mile.